This is Amy Laura Hall, and I'm going to try to explain why in the world I would use Star Trek to teach issues related to global health. I've had many people ask me this question, so I thought I'd make a short video giving you my most concise answer. So, in a class where students are thinking about policy issues when they're 17 or 18 or maybe 19 years old, it can be helpful to pause the conversation about which policies they would implement if they were captain of a large endeavor like the Enterprise, and go to an imagined world that Gene Roddenberry has created and think through small details that the artistic creators who created Star Trek have made, to think about details that are not immediate to your own context as someone thinking about policy issues in global health, and do a close reading of someone else's artistic creation that is adjacent to what we're talking about. Okay, when I say adjacent to what we're talking about, in my syllabi, when I use Star Trek to teach, I explain that Star Trek, the universe, the world creation, Gene Roddenberry created a world that is Star Trek with a set of meanings and rules. And one of the working assumptions that Gene Roddenberry used to create the world that is Star Trek is the almost imperative to travel. That human beings, this is within the Gene Roddenberry world that he created, human beings are explorers, that we desire boldly to go boldly into other areas of the universe. And when we do, we, according to the Gene Roddenberry universe, learn new things about creatures who are vaguely humanoid. And as we, in the Gene Roddenberry universe, encounter those humanoid creatures, we classify them according to what kind of planet they live on, what kind of technology they currently have. And so something to look up that could be of interest is the Prime Directive. So the Prime Directive, you can talk about it in lots of different ways, but Gene Roddenberry has this running term in the universe that he created with Star Trek, that when a group of people are traveling to another place and they arrive and discover that the humanoid creatures on that planet have not developed as far along a trajectory as the people who are in the ship traveling, that they should not introduce that technology to people who are less developed, because it will, according to the Gene Roddenberry universe, disrupt their natural evolution as humanoid creatures. So if you don't have a sense of why that applies, how that might apply in ways to the endeavor that goes under the term global health, we'll talk about that in different ways. But first, I need to help you understand why it is worth your trouble to watch a cheesy old television series and think about the artistic creations that go on in Gene Roddenberry's universe. I'm going to just awkwardly, low tech, because I'm not as developed as other peoples maybe on other planets who have more technology. I'm going to do low tech way of showing you one clip from one of the episodes that I often recommend. It's called Who Watches the Watchers? And this is the end. This is a clip from the end of that episode.
Captain's log supplemental. Dr. Crusher has repaired my injury with her usual skill. Mr. LaForge will supervise the dismantling of the observation post after I make one last visit to Mintaka 3. Now, Mr. LaForge.
Aye, sir.
What is that?
It is a place where we can watch your people.
But why?
To study you. To understand your ways. Please continue, Mr. LaForge.
Picard, why would a people so advanced want to learn about us?
We were once as you are now. To study you is to understand ourselves.
But why do you have to hide yourself from us?
Because their presence would affect us, just as it affected me.
It is our highest law that we shall not interfere with other cultures.
Then revealing yourselves was an accident.
Oh, yes. And now we must leave you.
Why? There's so much you can teach us.
But that too would be interference. You must progress in your own way.
So we will. You have taught us there is nothing beyond our reach.
Not even the stars.
Pocky. I wish you good journeys, Picard. Remember my people.
Always.
Okay. Low tech indeed. All right, you can watch that clip on YouTube. I'll try to figure out a way to post it in connection to this short introduction to why we watch Star Trek in some of my classes. So to do a close reading on that episode, you'll have to watch the entire episode. You can laugh at parts of the entire episode, of course. And you'll need to be thinking about something like why this particular actor, this particular accent, why this particular hairstyle, why this particular costume, what's going on with the artistic directors, how did they choose the landscape that they have in this episode? Because they didn't just like throw a piece of dice and be like, okay, we're going to Nevada. No, they chose a particular landscape to represent this group of humanoids on another planet that are heroes, the people on the USS Enterprise, come to accidentally interfere with. And thinking about how language of development, technology, travel, progress, time, evolution, religion. There's so much going on in this episode. It's really worth thinking about even while you're laughing. And for your close reading, what I hope you'll consider doing is picking just one small detail. Why arrows? What were the artistic people who are creating this world that Gene Roddenberry built, this meaning system that Gene Roddenberry, who created the Star Trek series, built? Why arrows in this scene that you're going to be perhaps choosing? why why this particular color scheme in one of the scenes, why this particular way of depicting a technologically advanced, within the built world of Gene Roddenberry, a technologically advanced, more progressed, according to the world he's created, lab or office, the physician's facility. So thinking about the way that they've laid out the architecture for the place where people receive medical care on the USS Enterprise, why this particular style for the doctor, Dr. Crusher, who is working as the doctor on the USS Enterprise. There's so many different details to write about. Choose one and write a close reading, not using that detail to try to make policy, but just thinking alongside that detail that puzzles you, that you find weird or funny. So that's what I'm hoping for in this exercise that we often do in classes I teach. And the hardest part right now for many students is going to be not using a detail to try to say something that you already want to say about how to solve the pandemic of 2020. Okay, I'm going to give you one other thing that I've been really noticing myself in news media coverage about the pandemic. So some people have used the term COVID shaming, thinking about how individuals in neighborhoods, in classrooms, wherever, in the grocery store, are calling people out, calling one another out for maybe not keeping 6 feet or whatever that is. I actually think that this year, Star Trek is going to be helpful for thinking about how nation states are, I'm talking in passive voice, how different journalistic outlets, how different journalists, how different commentators are assessing different nation states for whether or not they are advanced and therefore capable, or if they have, if they're not advanced and aren't capable, and how different nation states are being evaluated in different journalistic articles for how advanced, progressive, efficient. Think about the different words, the different words that are being used to talk about which nation states have gotten it right when dealing with COVID. And I understand that for some of you, trying not to bring this into our current politics within the United States, it's going to be very hard. But I want you to try for the next couple of weeks or so to think about how different groups of people are depicted during this pandemic as being instructively bad, like here's a country that got it wrong, instructively good, here's a nation state that got it right. So thinking about different groups of people, different nation states, and how, if you were going to think about the built world, the world building that Gene Roddenberry made, how Gene Roddenberry's, not Gene Roddenberry's perspective, but how watching Gene Roddenberry's world might help you eventually, not immediately, but eventually think about how the imperative to travel, to bring progress, but not too much progress, to different groups of people around the world, how that is a culturally particular narrative. So watching a built world that is sort of science fiction that's adjacent to our own world, can help you get sort of out of the policy decision aspect of global health and think about the language and assumptions of global health. Okay, I'm sure I'll need to make another video along these lines, following up, but this is my best attempt at this point to help you understand why I teach Star Trek. And I promise, pop some popcorn, you'll get some good laughs, and some of you may decide you like Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie, but I find Star Trek interesting. Bye.